How we doing, everyone? Good morning and happy Wednesday. It's the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Kind of doing a split take today between some baseball and NFL. I'm going to fill you in on some of the potential moves that are going to happen in baseball, some of the moves that already have happened, as well as part one of the NFL Week 14 slate, which is going to be covering the Thursday night football and the Sunday 1 p.m. games. Riding solo today, coffee in hand, let's ride. Shohei Ohtani is expected to make a decision this week. My question to you, the viewers, is where will he land? I believe that you cannot completely count out his current employer, the Los Angeles Angels, as I imagine they are going to try to do everything until the 11th hour to keep him. Their neighbors, the Los Angeles Dodgers, limitless pockets. I think in most people's estimations, they are the favorite to land Shohei because of the fact that they can outbid anyone if they truly want to. And I do believe that in that regard, Shohei's star would grow even more. This is also a Dodgers team that needs to win more championships. They only have the pandemic World Series victory. And outside of that, most recently, 1988. If they do not hang up more banners, get more World Series trophies, I do believe that this regime in Dodgers baseball could be viewed as a bit of a failure when you look at how star-studded they have been. West Coast candidate that I definitely also believe might have a very real chance of scoring Mr. Ohtani, without a doubt, has to be, I would have to say, the San Francisco Giants. This is a team that most recently struck out on Aaron Judge as well as Carlos Correa after it was reported that both of them at two different junctures of last offseason were signed. And I believe that that's the Giants showing their fan base that they are not afraid to go out there and spend the big bucks. Therefore, I believe that goes without saying that they will very much be in the mix to sign Shohei and a very real threat to his current Angel team as well as the Dodgers. Outside the box thinking, are there any East Coast teams that could be in on this? The Boston Red Sox just made a trade with a division rival New York Yankee team, moving Alex Verdugo. Is that potentially the Red Sox way of sneakily saying we might be in on Juan Soto? We might be in on Shohei? It's a possibility. And while Shohei originally came into Major League Baseball and did not want to play on an East Coast team, mainly because of travel to Japan being less convenient, he is an older player now. So I do believe that an East Coast team wouldn't be out of the question. I still think it's a little bit of a reach. Somewhere in the middle, Seattle Mariners. Cannot count out the Seattle Mariners, especially when you consider previous Japanese legend Ichiro Suzuki being so great for so many years over there. But my prediction as to where Shohei will land, I believe he's going to be a San Francisco Giant. They were so close to grabbing Aaron Judge, who grew up in that region. And I think it's the Giants showing their fan base, hey guys, we're here. We want to compete. You have a Diamondbacks team that just appeared in the World Series. You have a Dodgers team that always wins that division. I think it's the Giants that have to go above and beyond and make something happen. I can't even consider the San Diego Padres, given the fact that their finances have been so terrible that they actually have been having trouble even so much as paying their guys. And that's part of the reason why Juan Soto is going to be on the block. And I wouldn't be surprised if even a big name like Fernando Tatis should get moved. But that is my prediction. Shohei Ohtani will be a San Francisco Giant, and I think the decision is going to happen sooner rather than later. When I say soon, possibly as early as the new week, maybe during the weekend, we might get the huge news. But I do believe that's where Shohei is going to be heading. It's going to be very interesting. I mentioned Alex Verdugo going to the Bronx. This is interesting. Why is this rental a low-key great move for the Yankees? Well, first and foremost, the Yankees didn't move on from prime farm capital to acquire Verdugo. Verdugo is essentially a rental for a year. He brings a 281 career batting average, averaging out to roughly 14 home runs a year. The reason I like this move is because when you look at what the Yankees had going on last year in the outfield, outside of Aaron Judge, they didn't have much. Jason Dominguez showed a brief stint of moments of brilliance before he had that injury. He will not be returning to the Yankees probably until anywhere between game 80 to game 100. Some names leaked to the New York Yankees, goes without saying, Juan Soto. This has been a constant thing that you see almost every day lately, that the Yankees and the Padres are constantly pushing back on each other about what to move. The Yankees would have to get a commitment from Soto's camp immediately in the paperwork that he signs with the Yankees long term. They're not going to make that kind of deal and move that kind of player depth if they're not going to get Soto for a substantial amount of years. Cody Bellinger's also been linked to the Yankees. In Bellinger's case, I believe that's the only way that Judge stays out of center field to start the season. Soto will be at one corner, whereas Verdugo will be at the other. Giancarlo Stanton will be manning down the DH position. In a perfect world, I would love to see Stanton get moved in a potential deal for Soto, even if it meant that we had to take on a bad contract from the Padres. Maybe a Yu Darvish contract. He's kind of underperformed. But I think Stanton's days in the Bronx might not be numbered, but they're definitely dated. I just don't feel that at this juncture of his career and at this juncture of the contract, it works out for anybody. But he does have a no-trade clause. The allure for a guy like Stanton to go play there is because he has hit marvelously in that ballpark back in his National League days as a member of the then Florida Marlins, now Miami Marlins. There is a possibility that Stanton gets moved down in the lineup and stays with the Yankees. But I believe that if the Yankees, in addition to the farmhands that the Padres are interested in, could move Stanton, it would be worth it. Division rival of the Yankees, the Baltimore Orioles, closing in on relief pitcher Craig Kimbrel. This would be a great move for the sheer fact that Baltimore could use all the arms they could possibly get to shorten out the games and bridge it. You have Bautista and Castro in that bullpen. Baltimore is coming off one of their best seasons in the last 20 some odd years. But they did fall short, getting swept out by the eventual world champion Texas Rangers in what was deemed to be a bit of an upset. The Orioles have nothing to be ashamed of getting swept out, but they are definitely a big player in the American League East right now. And they've got to continue to add talent when you consider that the Yankees are going to be reloading. The Rays aren't going anywhere. And while the Blue Jays might be a bit of an enigma, they definitely have a lot of talent. And I've said this going into last year, maybe this is the year it happens. I do believe that if the Toronto Blue Jays get out of the gates kind of slow in the new baseball season, Don Mattingly may get promoted to be their full-time manager as opposed to just the manager in waiting. That will be revealed. But Major League Baseball, it's going to be like a blitzkrieg of articles, events, news coming out in the next few weeks. And it all starts with Shohei. He's the big domino piece that's going to fall. And then you're going to see it kind of explode with all the other moves. But yeah, Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto, Cody Bellinger, definitely the biggest names that are going to be linked to trades and free agent signings and such. Going to move it along to my Week 14 Part 1 NFL preview. This here, when you look at the records, might not be deemed a great game, but I actually think this could be the upset of the week. The Los Angeles Rams are heading into Baltimore with a 6-6 record, taking on the AFC's top seed, the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens have a real opportunity to stay in the one spot, but they cannot overlook the Rams, as Kyren Williams has just really balanced out their offense and is just running with a real ferocity, hitting all the holes, just looking good. Matthew Stafford has been able to be upright more consistently. And led by Cooper Kupp, that wide receiving room is looking much healthier and just giving Matthew Stafford options. Tyler Higbee does have a bit of a neck stinger. We're going to see if he's able to suit up for this one. On the other side of things, I expect Isaiah Likely to get a bigger role in this Ravens offense, a couple of weeks removed from the Mark Andrews injury. But I still think he's going to be third fiddle in the passing game behind Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham Jr. in that order. As the game goes, both of these teams definitely have the ability to run the ball. But the reason why I'm picking the Rams to pull off this upset is because, quite frankly, although Baltimore is 9-3, I don't believe Baltimore's airtight. I said it on a previous show that I believe the AFC's tops are not as good as the NFC's tops. And that is part of the reason why I do see a potential upset coming this way. I think it could get into the high 20s, possibly the low 30s. My prediction for the game, Los Angeles Rams 29, Baltimore Ravens 27. I think it's going to end on a late field goal. And I think the Ravens are going to be kind of a little bit shocked after this. The Rams, I've watched them lately, and they look like a team that belongs in this playoff dance. And I think it's a great chess match, a great coaching matchup. When you think about Coach Sean McVay going head-to-head with Harbaugh, I think it's just a great coaching matchup. It's an interconference game. These are teams that don't play each other frequently, and even less frequently when they are both relevant. But when I look at the 1 p.m. slate, along with the Thursday night football slate, I do believe that this is potentially the best game of the week. This is going down at 1 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. It's going to be good. Ryan Shed joining the show. How you doing, brother? Likely filled in nicely for Andrews last year. Yes, indeed, Ryan. He certainly did. And while he didn't catch a pass in his first action after Andrews was lifted out of the game with the injury, I do believe that now that he's more of a focal point in the game plan, he's going to be performing. I actually picked him up in one of my fantasy leagues. We're going to go now to Thursday night football, keeping it in this North Division. We've got the New England Patriots at 2-10, traveling to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 7-5. Historically, this is usually such a war. This game lacks a lot of juice. But the Steelers look to stay in the playoff hunt, and they're going to have to do it without quarterback Kenny Pickett for a little while. He should be back, but he's not going to be available this week. The Patriots will be without star running back Ramondre Stevenson, who, despite a horrible year for the team, has been quite awesome. Interesting tidbit here. The Steelers look to make NFL history by securing an 8th win for the 20th consecutive season. Read that twice if you need to. That's pretty incredible. As the game goes, despite the Steelers' offensive issues, I don't see any possible scenario where the Patriots could win this game because their offensive issues are even worse. Whether it's Mac Jones, whether it's Bailey Zappi, it doesn't matter. They don't have a running back. Stevenson was that guy that can keep them in some games. Their defense is good. I don't think people realize how good the Patriots defense is. But with such an inadequate offense, it doesn't matter right now. Statistically speaking, outside of my New York Giants, these are two of the other worst offenses in the NFL. The only difference is the Steelers have been able to win consistently despite their offensive issues. I expect a very low-scoring, field position-driven game, but I do think the Steelers will hit pay dirt at least once, possibly twice, where the Patriots will be lucky to score a field goal. I got it very low-scoring. I'm going Steelers 16, Patriots 3. That Patriot offense is a far cry from what we've come to see over the years with the great Tom Brady, or even the beginning of the Mac Jones era. Their offense wasn't that bad, but right now it is truly, truly horrible. Steelers for the win, continuing that very impressive streak of 8 consecutive seasons. 8 wins in 20 consecutive seasons. I'm sorry. A little bit of a tongue tie there, but yeah, Steelers are definitely going to be in the mix until the final week of the season. Mike Tomlin is incredible. He makes lemonade out of lemons. No matter what he has to work with, he always finds a way. The Detroit Lions at 9-3 travel to Chicago, who are 4-8. Lions look to continue their push for the 1 seed as the North, for the most part, is sewed up despite the recent emergence of the Green Bay Packers. Lions are also looking to play better in general. For 2 consecutive weeks at home, they have not looked good. Once against this Bears team where they had to fight from behind to come back and win. And on Thanksgiving, really looking like just awful and rather lost against the Green Bay Packers. This is a Lions team that did beat the Saints last week, but the Saints are missing all kinds of players. And the Lions didn't exactly make it look easy. So, 3 consecutive weeks struggling in a very big way. I do think that the Lions are going to get it right this particular week. I don't think this will be as close as the original matchup in Detroit. Sometimes I think when you're struggling and when you're going through it, sometimes going into a hostile environment is exactly what a team needs to focus, to kind of lean on each other, to just kind of be accountable to one another. And in this regard, I think that's what's going to happen for the Detroit Lions. I got them winning this by at least 10, possibly more. I'm going to go 17. I got the Lions winning this thing 34-17, and I think they're going to have an overall solid outing. It's imperative for the Lions to start playing better football because although it's pretty sewed up that they are going to win this division, if they are not playing well going into the playoffs or if they are showing too many holes, they're going to be a quick out. I mean, granted, Green Bay is currently third, possibly soon to be second with the plight lately of the Minnesota Vikings. But the point is, hypothetically, let's say if the Lions ran into the Packers in round one, which is not out of the question, I'm not convinced the Lions will beat them right now. And I've said it in my many a show, this Lion team is starting to remind me of last year's Viking team. And that's not a team you want to be compared to, considering that they won 13 games and got outed by a single-digit New York Giants team, 9-win team there. The Houston Texans also on the playoff rise, traveling to MetLife Stadium to take on the 4-8 New York Jets. Recently reported that Zach Wilson is reluctant to start and quarterbacks Tim Boyle as well as Trevor Siemian. I've been watching a little bit of the Jets. That offense is god-awful. Another loss basically ends the idea of an Aaron Rodgers return because there would essentially be no reason to return other than him stroking his ego and saying, hey, guys, I came back. But on some seriousness, you got to protect the player, and you cannot have that kind of investment coming back for games that don't matter. Not to mention that the Jets could fall a little bit and potentially upgrade their situation for next year. The defense of the Jets, still a premier unit, but it is obvious that they have been tested, that they have been exhausted because of the quarterback ineptitude. Jets absolutely have to find a way to win this game if they even entertain bringing back the 4-time league MVP Aaron Rodgers. I don't see a scenario here where the Jets are able to put up enough points. It's been the story all year watching these guys. They will make it interesting. They will fight hard, but they just don't have enough on offense. And in an offensive-driven league, especially with the rules geared to make it a little easier for teams to score points, it's even more nauseating probably for Jet fans that this team just can't score. I don't think it'll be a walk in the park for CJ Stroud and his guys, but I do think the Texans win this thing. I'm going to go Houston Texans 20, New York Jets 12. Jets just can't score, guys. They just can't score. Jacksonville Jaguars at 9-4 coming off a disappointing loss to the Bengals, traveling to the Dog Pound, the 7-5 Browns. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence, high ankle sprain. We don't know how long he's going to be out. I'm sure they're going to do everything in their power to get him back quickly. The team likely turns to C.J. Beathard. The Browns also have their share of quarterback issues as they attempt to stay in the playoff picture. They're going to be rolling with Joe Flacco. Defensive struggle written all over this thing. Last week, the Jaguars were involved in a shootout. A very unfortunate scene to see Trevor Lawrence not being able to put power and walk off the field on his own. His offensive lineman, who was also injured on the play, kind of just got pushed and rolled into him. He bent backwards. That was the diagnosis, a high ankle sprain. And seeing how long it took Saquon Barkley to return, I am worried that Trevor is going to miss some key time here. And it's disappointing for the Jaguars because of how good they've been playing. Even in defeat, Etienne was just awesome. ATN, rather, was just awesome on the ground. I really thought the Jaguars were going to somehow find a way to pull this thing off last week. As the Browns go, similar issues to some of the other teams I've mentioned coming into this game before this. The quarterback position is a nightmare right now. When you are leaning on a guy who is semi-retired like Joe Flacco was, it doesn't say much about your quarterback options or your faith in what you already have, and plus, the injury variable to it. Cleveland, as I've said on many shows, they have a championship caliber defense, but I don't believe that they're going to be able to score enough points. Kind of sounds like a repeated broken record theme. CJ Beathard fumbled on his first play with the Jaguars after Lawrence got injured. Fortunately for him, it was recovered by the offense. But as the game moved along, I did see a confidence in Beathard that he could run the offense. I don't think that this game is going to be high scoring. Most games that actually occur in Cleveland, even when they do have healthy quarterbacks, is not high scoring this time of the year. But I do believe that the Jaguar running game and the Jaguars' excellent defense led by Josh Allen, who's having a phenomenal season, will be enough to secure the Jaguars a win and get to a 10th victory. I've got the Jaguars winning this thing 23-16. I think the Browns keep it close, but the Jaguars respond well. And the Jaguars have a better record on the road, people. They are only 3-4 in their home stadium, and they're going to have to figure out how to win at home if they're going to be getting a home game or possibly even two in these playoffs. Probably one. That Bengals loss was pretty substantial. Speaking of the Bengals, they are still very much in the mix at 6-6. Gotta give credit where credit is due to their backup quarterback. His first week of the season versus his second week of the season looks like two completely different people. He made the throws. He was able to get out of the pocket, identify the chains, and just keep the chains moving. Jamar Chase had a phenomenal game last week in Jacksonville. And honestly, I think the Bengals have a chance to win. And oddly enough, they look better on offense even without Joe Burrow than the Steelers and the Browns do. So they very much are still alive. Their defense, middle tier at best. But they are putting themselves in a position to win. Jake Browning, right now, one of the better backups in the league the way he's been playing. As the Colts go, I'm still trying to figure out if this team is really as good as their record says or if they have just been kind of lucky. It's a cool story that Gardner Minshew is getting another crack at starting, and I've always been a fan of his. But when I look at this particular game, I think about every variable known. And I just don't see a scenario where the Colts are going to go into Cincy and win this thing. I think this could be the bad version of Gardner Minshew where the Bengals induce some turnovers. As a matter of fact, I think the Bengals might turn this thing up and actually distance themselves early. And, possibly if you get a lead and you could unleash Joe Mixon and start running the ball, playing keep away, I think the Bengals are going to get the home dub and make things very interesting in this very congested AFC. I've got the Bengals winning this game 30-20. I think the Colts will compete, but I think the Bengals are a better team with or without Joe Burrow. And it's going to do some shakeup with, like I said, you only have so many spots in the bottom wild card positions, but the AFC is so congested on the bottom. I'm willing to say that on the bottom, the AFC is better than the NFC, but on the top, the NFC is better than the AFC. Is there any wild card team that I see right now in either conference that can go to the Super Bowl? Got to think about it for a moment, not too long, but I would say the Dallas Cowboys right now. Dallas Cowboys are probably the most qualified wild card at the moment. Not all that's been decided. That can go to the Super Bowl. That can, of course, change. Mediocrity galore here as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 5-7 head into Atlanta, who is 6-6. Earlier in the season, Atlanta did grab the win in Tampa 16-13 in a defensive struggle. A sweep here would give the Falcons a huge advantage heading down the stretch. I like Tampa for the road upset. This division has proven to me that nothing needs to be decided and nothing will be decided until the end of the season. It's just kind of the way that everything has panned out and played out. And I also think that when you look at the Bucks, and I do watch them enough here, I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are actually a better road team. I'm not completely convinced that Desmond Ridder could make the plays that need to be made. I was pleased that Atlanta did go back to the running game recently and try to get back to forming their identity as opposed to forcing Drake London and Kyle Pitts into the game plan almost in vain. Tampa Bay Buccaneers have struggled against the pass. I just am not convinced that the Atlanta Falcons have what it takes to exploit that. I got the Buccaneers winning this thing in somewhat of a high-scoring battle. I got the Buccaneers winning here 30-27. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think the Bucs split this divisional series, and this is going to be another one of those divisions that goes back to the very end. But make no mistake about it, this is the worst division in professional football. Wrapping it up with the Carolina Panthers, the NFL's worst team unequivocally. They're 1-11, traveling to the 5-7 states who are going through a great deal of injuries on that roster. Whether it's Carr, whether it's Winston, whether it's Taysom Hill, the Saints will beat this Carolina team because this Carolina team is the absolute worst that the NFL has to offer. Keys to victory for the Saints: run the ball early and often and allow the play action pass to open up. You are missing receivers. Therefore, you can get one of those fantasy add-ons that can have a blow-up week. I'm not suggesting it, though. I'm also thankful that I have really good receivers on my team. As the game goes, can Bryce Young keep this thing close? I mean, maybe. I don't know how many points the Saints are going to be able to put up with all their injuries. Having said that, their defense is still very, very good. And that's a reason why they've probably been able to win as many games as they've had this year, because their offense has been very sporadic. I've got the Saints winning this thing 24-10. It's not going to be a thriller by any means. It's not even going to be all that exciting. But I think the Saints defense is going to get after Bryce Young. And if there's any bright spot for Carolina in this game, Adam Thielen might quietly get near 100 yards in a losing effort. We will be back with announcements to come to wrap up our Week 14 NFL preview. I'm going to have Idris as well as Brett on the panel, possibly a few other guests, and I will turn my camera on and show you my mug. I'm just going to tell you a little trick to my show. When I'm talking by myself, I tend to concentrate a little better when I can just kind of kick back, drink my coffee, and be able to give you all the information that I'm trying to dole out. It's a little weird when you're talking to yourself, or at least it feels like it. I know you guys are watching, but just one of my little peeves when it comes to doing the podcast. Greatly appreciate you guys, giving me feedback, watching the show, giving us ideas. You guys are the reason we do this show. And I just want to say I appreciate all the support that you guys have shown us. And we're going to continue to expand and just keep doing what we love, and that's bringing you everything we can in the world of sports. If you haven't already, please make it a point to like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Announcements to come. We will be back soon for part 2 of the Week 14 NFL preview. I wish you guys a very good and prosperous Wednesday. Have a great day.